Hello, my name is Casey. I live in a house with my older stepbrother Gary and my older sister Mary. Our parents died in a car accident, so me and Mary lived with Gary. Since I was the youngest at the age of 13, I was treated like the baby. I enjoyed it to a point, like almost getting anything I wanted, like my new art set. But then it got annoying when I couldn't do anything. Mary and me walked home every day together from school. But today, Mary didn't meet me. I stood there when I suddenly got the feeling like I was being watched coming from behind me. I turned around to see a man with no face and long tentacles in the distance. I kept looking at it for what felt like an eternity, and the longer I stared at it, I felt angry and raged. Then it finally got too much and I ran for home, completely forgetting about Mary. I came running in the door, and as soon as I did, I saw a policeman standing there. Gary came running over to me. "Where have you been?" Gary said while pulling me into a hug. "Gary, what's wrong?" I asked, and accepted the hug. Well, Casey, the police found Mary stuff on the sidewalk, and Mary got kidnapped, Gary said while looking me straight in the eyes. I felt my world shatter at that. I just stared thinking. "Casey," I heard Gary say, from out of my blurred thinking. I looked up at him. "I'm going to my room," I said while walking past Gary and the cop and up the stairs. I had to go past Mary's room to get to mine, but I wanted to walk inside. I opened the door slowly to see everything was in its normal place. I walked up to her dresser and saw there was a full bottle of pink hair dye. It was hot pink, my second favorite color. I thought to myself, what would I look like with pink hair? It felt like it would be fun, and I grabbed the bottle and went to the bathroom. I put a towel over my face and my hair over the sink and started pouring the bottle on my hair, hoping I was doing it right. Once the bottle was empty, I wrapped my hair up in the towel and waited 5 minutes. Once the 5 minutes were up, I washed my hair and looked in the mirror. You could see the pink well, but my original black hair showed well too. I thought it looked cool. I cleaned up the mess and went to my room. I got changed into my PJs. I wasn't one for all girly stuff, so I put on a black shirt with a red and black striped flannel and some black tights. I was very skinny, so they matched pretty well to me. I laid down on my bed when I got the same feeling, like I was being watched, coming from my window. I got up and looked out to see the same thing I saw at school. But this time, the rage and anger wouldn't go away. I had to take it out on something. I grabbed a paintbrush from my art set and quietly went down the stairs to see the policeman was gone and Gary's girlfriend Sophie was sitting next to him. I liked Sophie. She was nice, but weird at times. I slowly opened the front door and creeped out. It was a dark and cold February night, but my flannel kept me warm. I looked around and saw no one but Mr. Lanky. Mr. Lanky was a mean old man who never was nice to me. I slowly creeped over to him and walked in front of him. "Would you move, you idiotic teen? I'm trying to go home," Mr. Lanky growled to me. "Oh, hello," has turned red, so onward to death, I said to him with a twisted smile on my face. What? He said with a confused look on his face. I punched him in the gut, and he fell to his knees. I was going to hit him again, but he grabbed my hands. I knew you were trouble, you little shit. He tried to yell, but he was very, very worn out from trying to hold me back. I kicked him in the chest and knocked him on his back. I got on top of him, and a black pocket knife fell out of his pocket. I picked it up and said, "Oh, we can't have that. We can't let such dangerous things be in the hands of unprofessionals now, can we? There must be punishment in order," I said while putting the pocket knife in my pocket. I then grabbed his head and started beating it off the ground, knocking him out. I took the pocket knife out of my pocket and stabbed him in the chest. There wasn't enough ink to paint with, but I then went to his feet and stabbed his Achilles tendon so he couldn't ever be able to run away. The only reason I knew where the tendons were was because Gary was a medical student, and I would sometimes read his books. But it still wasn't enough ink to paint with, and I made sure I didn't get any on me so I wouldn't waste it. And with the pocket knife, I stabbed into his chest again and stabbed so much I could open it. The sound of flesh and bone ripping apart was amazing. It ringed in my ears beautifully. I could see his heart. It had stopped beating. Mr. Lanky was dead. I dipped my paintbrush in his ink and wrote ink all over his body. Then I painted roses trailing out from his body. My work was done, and I walked over to my house. I made sure I didn't have any ink on me, which I didn't. I slowly opened the door and creeped inside. I saw Gary and Sophie asleep on the couch. I went up to my room and laid down. Laid down on my bed. I felt amazing. It was like doing what I did made me happy. A huge twisted smile grew on my face. Then I frowned because I couldn't look as amazing as Mr. Lanky was. I then took the pocket knife and rolled up my flannel sleeve and cut my arm. I grabbed another paintbrush and painted roses on my arm. I then covered my cut so there wouldn't be ink everywhere. I then laid my head down and went to sleep. When I woke, I smelled the smell of pancakes. Normally, I would be running down the stairs, but I wasn't hungry. I looked at my work to see it on my arm. It was amazing. I got up and I didn't even feel like changing. I went down the stairs to see Sophie making pancakes and Gary helping her. I turned to the TV and the news was on. I couldn't believe what I saw. My amazing art on TV. The news reporter said, last night 47-year-old Doug Lanky died to an unknown killer who has been named as Ink because of the number of times it was written on his body. So that's what they call me, I asked myself without realizing I said it out loud. Gary and Mary almost instantaneously turned around to look at me. What? Gary and Sophie said together while walking over to me. Oh, you heard me. I didn't even notice. I guess there's no point in lying. So, how do you like my art? I smiled as I asked the question. Casey, there's... Gary said, but I angrily interrupted him. My name isn't Casey. It's Ink. I said angrily. Alright, Ink, there's no way you did this, Gary said with a bit of fear in his eyes. Oh, but dear brother, I did. I smiled my twisted smile as I pulled out Mr. Lanky's blood-soaked knife out of my pocket. Sophie covered her mouth and slowly backed up towards the phone. You didn't, Gary asked, terrified. I did, and I loved every minute. I remember the sound of his bone and flesh ripping. It was amazing, I said while smiling twistedly, but it became only horrifying after that. Sophie called the police, and I turned my head right to her. Oh, Sophie, 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 scared little Sophie, calling for help. You're like flies trapped in a spider's web, I said and laughed. I had lost my mind to amazing things, and my once loved people are now getting in my way. I let them live their unseen lives. I have to make more art, to make. You may consider yourselves lucky, I said, well, heading towards the back door. As the sirens got louder, I ran out the back door and into the woods. I ran into the woods, feeling happy. I stopped to take a break. I saw the faceless man. He was waving for me to come with him. And I did. That's when my life as a creepypasta began.